All right. Welcome to the Revital Health podcast, Louis.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on. And as a Revital Health ambassador, we have been watching you go through multiple stages of success and slight injury. So we can discuss all of that today, but it's been a pleasure having you in clinic and supporting you along on your optimal journey to just crazy things that you put your body through and expectations, which is inspirational.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Nah, it's been a pretty wild ride already. Like I've only been working alongside you guys for a few months now, but I feel like there's already been some pretty big life events go down for me in that short period of time. So it's been exciting.
it's good to have support right at the right time, I think.
For
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
So, Louis, let's get started in just having a bit of context. I'm sure the audience who are listening here know you well. I had someone in clinic actually last night, and they're like, oh, "Are you the Revital Health that Lewy Finnegan goes to?" And, and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't think there's any other Revital Healths, but yes, that's Louis." My gosh, he goes in there, and they were looking at the hyper.
That's so funny.
So cute. So yeah, how did you get into bodyboarding, professional bodyboarding, and all the amazing things that you're involved in now? Let's have a little bit of a walk through the history of Louis Finnegan.
Yeah, it sounds good. So to be honest, bodyboarding really has been a part of my life for my entire life. I don't even really remember at the time before bodyboarding because I kind of grew up with it. But I remember the first competition I did was when I was 11 years old. And I basically, for the few years before that, when I was super, super young, I was bodyboarding because of my oldest brother, because him and his friends were doing it down at the beach every day after school. And I kind of looked up to both my older brothers, as every younger sibling would. Like they're the epitome of cool, and I just wanted to do everything they did. And so that's basically how I got into bodyboarding. But I kind of had this ambition of wanting to be a professional at it. I don't really know where that came from at such a young age, but I was like, yeah, I got to make it in bodyboarding. So competing was the obvious path to go down. So I started competing when I was 11. And yeah, I kind of haven't looked back since. I just like took it one step at a time, all the way from back then until now. But obviously, lots of other things happened in life, and I got very drawn to kind of just performance, like physical performance in general. So being an athlete in bodyboarding got me really keen on training, on recovery, and that's kind of how I found all of the other aspects of what I do, such as yoga and Pilates teaching and calisthenics and strength training. It all kind of ties into the one interest in physical human performance, I suppose.
It's a fascination, I think, and you are also known for your very, what should I say for it? Crazy stunts and moves. And the big ways that you try and tackle, which takes a serious type of no fear and dedication and just a love for the sport itself as well. But I think there is this fascination with how far we can push the body, and I think it's a beautiful fascination. And you definitely do that. I don't know if any of you go over to Louis' page on Instagram now and go and look at while you listen to this and go and look at his amazing handstand feats because I aim to be like him one day when I grow up.
We'll get you there for sure.
I can hold it for 2 seconds already. Yay.
That's pretty good. You're nearly there then.
So what sort of, yeah, obviously calisthenics is a huge part of what you're doing at the moment and pushing your body in this way. What do you find to be sort of the biggest parts of stoppers for you? And let's just pull aside the injury that you've got at the moment, but so moving through life, like and your days of doing this sort of work, is there anything major that you find that sort of is a big challenge and that you come across?
Um, For sure. I suppose if we're relating that just to my training, I think the biggest obstacle is honestly just avoiding injury. And that can be either like a slow building kind of overuse injury that starts as a little niggle that I'm like, oh no, it's fine. And then 6 months down the track, I actually have to stop training because it's become something quite serious.
Oh,
Or it could be just those random unfortunate events in life that happen. And that's kind of what's going on with my ankle at the moment. It's kind of unavoidable big injuries that just happen as a part of life. So I think the I just feel like injuries are the biggest hurdle for me, and like when I'm not injured I'm able to make such good progress in all of my health and fitness goals, but then it's always those injuries that set me back again and again, and it's this constant battle of taking a few steps forwards and then an injury kind of pushing me a step or two back and just constantly trying to stay on top of it to keep going forwards.
yeah. But I think the dedication that you did, I've been watching you over the last, few weeks since the injury, and you're still, you're still getting your calisthenics in, even though you can't walk on that leg. So it's huge dedication. Whereas a lot of people will put that as oh well, I'm doomed now. So the mindset is just incredible. So I really, yeah, it's something to show and to stand up for, and for people to be inspired by. So I really love that.
Ah, thank you.
So, I'll come back to the injuries and looking after your health. Obviously, that's what a big part of what we do here at the clinic anyway. But I want to move through sort of a day in the life of a professional bodyboarder because it fascinates me too. So, obviously, competitions, traveling, practice, and Perth is not the greatest for the biggest waves in the world. But so step us through a year in the life of a bodyboarder.
Okay, so I guess there's multiple answers to this question depending on what the said bodyboarder is actually doing in that year. Because up until like 2 or 3 years ago, I was competing on the world tour for about 6 or 7 years.
Oh,
So a year for me back then is quite different to what I'm doing now. But if it's for someone who's competing like I was a few years ago, it's I guess the main focus is just on being super refined with my bodyboarding technique, which I think just comes from practicing bodyboarding as much as possible. So I would, wake up in the morning and check the forecast for the days ahead and just basically chase waves as much as I can. And during the surfing sessions that I manage to get in, it's always a pretty good idea to kind of mimic like a surfing a heat. So rather than just being super relaxed out in the water having fun, it would be more like setting a timer for 25 minutes, trying to get my two good waves in that time, scoring my own waves, and actually focusing on my free surfing being more of like a practice for my heats. And
hmm.
then I would just like go on the trips throughout the year to compete all around the world. It would be like 2 or 3 really big trips, one to South America, one to Europe, and then a few other trips to some random places around the world like Tahiti and Hawaii and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, just on top of that, staying generally fit and healthy. For me, I've always been super focused on my training, which isn't training specific for bodyboarding. I just love the actual action of training. So my training kind of feels like I'm not doing it to be the best bodyboarder I can. I'm actually just doing it because I absolutely love it. And some of it helps my bodyboarding. Some of it probably, to be honest, takes away from my bodyboarding because it strips me of all my energy sometimes. But yeah, that's I guess how I would spend my time back then. But now that I'm not competing anymore, I have like so much more free time, which is why I'm delving so much more into the calisthenics side of things because I have so much passion surrounding it. So I still chase waves as much as I can, but when there's no waves, I'm not really like banging my head against the wall. I'm instead just pursuing the other things I love in life. So yeah, chase waves when there's waves, and when there's not, just carry on with other things that I love and forget about waves.
Yeah, and it's a good place to be in Perth to do that, because then you don't get so frustrated. Because I know for a lot of the surfers and bodyboarders, when you don't have the good waves, it can really make you feel not great, and you can be really quite depressed about it if you can't reach the chasing of the high that you get after having just such a really good session. So Yeah, nah, cool. So my questions around that, Louis, is so have you ever had coaches? Like, have you had coaches? Have you needed coaches, or have you been sort of really a stickler for your timing and your training that you never really needed someone to support you in that way?
Yeah, I've never really had coaches. Like I have a really good friend who I grew up with. His name's Daly. He opened a gym back when I was about 18, so maybe like 10 or 11 years ago, and that's kind of where I first started training. And I definitely owe a lot of my passion nowadays to him for introducing me into like strength and conditioning and catching the bug from him being so like motivated and passionate about it. In terms of bodyboarding coaching, I've never really had any like formal training. I've had people throughout my career that have felt like mentors on and off for like um, certain aspects about my career, like making the right kind of sponsorship decisions and decisions on the back end of the sport, I guess, not actually teaching me, how to do a certain trick or how to ride a wave, but more just like some of the bigger decisions throughout my career. I've had some assistance from some of the older generation bodyboarders that have had to do it themselves. But
Yeah.
yeah, compared to other sports, I would say like, yeah, not much coaching at all. Kind of just
Yeah.
being on my own, just going through it and reaching out for help when I need it. But most of the time it's been pretty chill.
Sounds absolutely perfect. It sounds like
Yeah.
a freedom in the sport, but also to find like you have like your own way through and your own style, which is you're very well known for, and the intensity of the waves that you target as well.
Well, we live in like the best part of the world for that. Very
Yeah.
blessed. Obviously, Perth's no good, but if you
Sounds
look around the whole state of WA, it's like we have some of the best big waves in the world, so it makes sense to capitalize on that.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I was down south over the weekend and I was looking at some of the waves coming through and I was like, I'm not even getting in the water. I'm not tackling that. That with a board. Ah. So with obviously we've got the risk of getting injured as a part of the sport. Any intense sport, any high level sport, you're going to have this as a as an outcome that's a possibility. So, the best ways that you look after your body, your mind, obviously the yoga and the Pilates is incredible for that, but also the mindset around what you're doing with yoga and meditation. But talk us through sort of like the best ways you've been and been equipped with to look after your body and mind throughout the competitions and throughout these
Hmm,
times. Yeah.
that's a great question. And I would say, honestly, everything I've learned from getting into yoga would be what's carried over most to help me with my body and my mind. It's funny enough, I got into yoga after breaking my back when I was a teenager. My whole life has basically been riddled with some pretty big injuries, and breaking my back was the first one. And that really stopped me in my tracks. I was like in bed for months on end, basically told that I'm not allowed to move. So I was going super crazy. And once I was kind of getting on with my own rehab, they were like, "Oh, you'll be fine. Just like keep resting, it'll get better." But I definitely felt like my body got to a point where the recovery had plateaued, but I was still left over with like a mild pain. And so I was just trying lots of different things on my own to see if anything could kind of help me with getting rid of that or getting the last bit of recovery done so that I was feeling back to normal. And the first thing that helped was just stretching, like deep stretching. So I was stretching for hours every afternoon in front of the TV, and my brother's girlfriend at the time was getting into yoga and she was like, "Oh, you got to try yoga." And I had such a different kind of opinion of what yoga was in my mind that I was kept putting it off. I was like, "No, I don't want to do yoga. Like, that's gay. I'm not into that." And
Yeah.
just like she kind of just wore me down after a few weeks. And I was like, "All right, fine, I'll try it." And went to a heated vinyasa class. And yeah, it was just like insane how much I enjoyed it. It was so physically challenging that it really scratched that itch of what I wanted to do with my training. I was like, oh, okay, this is not just like for, mums who sit down and do like a little bit of stretching and that's it. This is like a full-on intense practice. And just
Yeah.
fell in love with it. And yeah, throughout the years of practicing yoga, becoming a teacher, it's just like equipped me so well to know how to kind of treat my body, to be really connected with my body and my energy levels. And most importantly, I guess my mind, it's just like got me so clear and really feel like it's taught me to get to know myself on the inside, not just by my body, but also my mind and my thoughts. And that obviously carries over not just to competing and bodyboarding, but to life in general. You still there? Hello.
Sorry, Louis. We just
That's all
had
right.
the internet issue then, but I just cut that one out. So, as in that section out. So I'll just restart where you were at anyway.
Sweet.
Um, so we'll just start back at where you were saying about mind. So keeping the mind in the game, so with
Hmm.
with yoga. So if you just start there again and then I'll
All right.
I'll hit that.
No worries. Good to go now?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so yoga's obviously taught me so much about how to treat my body and got me super in touch with my body and my energy levels throughout the day. But I think the biggest lesson I've learned from yoga is kind of just getting to know myself more on like a mental level and being super in touch with the thoughts running through my mind and the state of my mind. And that's carried over into being able to focus really well for my bodyboarding competitions and just generally being prepared for like high stress situations in life.
Yeah. It's it's one of the hardest things to do is that mind overcome, and a lot of elite athletes work with this, and they have to have, and fighters, if you're a fighter or if you're a swimmer or if you're a surfer or a bodyboarder, it's that pure focus and knowing where the mind is trying to trick you and where you actually need to be at. And it's the most incredible thing I find about elite athletes is the power and the control over their mind, and the ability to work through a situation. So it's that bringing out a wave and actually imagining and envisioning this and then bringing that forward. I did it to a small degree. I used to ride horses for dressage, so I had to ride the whole amount of so like the routine. I had to ride the routine in my mind before I even wrote it, so I could memorize it. So it's the power of the mind that we can actually harness, not only just the body, which the elite athletes like yourself do. So it's so fascinating. I love it.
100%. Yeah, you're right. And I think at the elite level, that's basically the difference between standing at the top of the podium or just like getting knocked in the semis, because everyone has the skill and talent at like a world level to win. But I think the deciding factor is the mind and the mental preparedness for the day of the competition.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So, and what you've been in, we've had our consultations, you've been in for a few of the sessions, and we've talked at length about the body's demand and the
Hmm.
body's need. So like what we put on the body as a demand, and then the requirements to actually feed that the body in the certain circumstances that we expect from it. So, what have you found so far around? Has there been any changes of perceptions? Has there been any things that you've learned, even just been through this process for a very short period of time? And I'm not going to divulge what we do in sessions, but leave it to you to sort of like feed in information that you want to around what we do here.
Yeah, for sure there has been. It's been like a lesson that I feel like every once in a while I need to learn again because I'm very stubborn and actually like grasping and holding on to this lesson for the long haul. But I feel like my a big problem with my load of training is that I just overtrain because I love it so much. Um, and a big lesson I feel like I've learnt with you and Revital Health is kind of nervous system regulation, and it's all good to jack up the nervous system for my training and get going and push it hard, but the skill in being able to down regulate and take the time out of my day to really slow down and enter into, rest and recovery mode is a lesson that I've kind of relearnt again through you guys and how important it is because I'm already noticing the difference with making gains in the gym and with my training, and also making huge gains with like healing from these injuries I have at the moment, just simply from not just not training, but really down regulating and getting myself into like a super relaxed state rather than just, oh, okay, it's time to rest, I'll scroll on my phone, but instead like really taking the rest a bit more serious and getting myself as low into a relaxed state as I can.
Yeah. And that's the key, isn't it? And I find that a lot of people think, we push more, get more. But if you rest more and give space for healing and recovery, then you get more.
For
Um,
sure.
you can do less. And so it's sort of like minimal effective dose and then training smarter, not harder, which is like the best thing to be doing. Even for clients, I find that are not elite athletes, and particularly women, like I will tell them that they don't need to exercise every day. Yes, you need to do incidental movement, but sometimes the more you exercise, the body actually becomes more inflamed and more unhealthy, and they put on weight. So they turn down their training level and they actually lose weight, and they're like, "What is this? This is incredible!" And I've got more energy, and I feel better, and I'm getting bigger muscles, and I'm more flexible, and so I think with the training style of a lot of athletes, it is just go go go. And I noticed that with one of the other ambassadors, the UFC, Steve, and he like trains. Still haven't quite gotten to the point of like getting the nervous system to relax at certain times and actually have enough recovery. But it's so important once you feel that, and that's the only way you can experience it. Is once you experience it, you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. This is like, yeah, right. This is the goal.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And for
Yeah.
me, it's so easy to forget about that feeling.
Yeah.
Um, like I'll do it for a few weeks and I'm like, oh, this is so much better being able to like unwind in the afternoons and just really relax. And then I'll go through a period where I'm just training heaps, working heaps, like non-stop for a few weeks, and it's just like that whole lesson that I was just talking about that I've learned is just out the window until like something really punches me in the face, like an injury or something, and I'm like, oh, I forgot about the whole down regulation. I
Yeah.
need to learn it again.
That's it. But it's natural. So for the humans, like we are wired on dopamine, so and adrenaline. So we're seeking that hit all the time, and we also almost have to detox off the hits to then
Yeah,
go, well, this is better balance. But then we'll always end up back there again, and that's the constant reevaluation, isn't it? And if we don't have space to do that reevaluation, then it's even more tricky. So
for sure.
you get dealt the big slaps in the faces.
Exactly. I also feel like in this day and age, it's getting harder and harder to kind of take the down regulation side seriously because, everything's kind of fighting for your attention right now with social media and just the expected busyness of your life with like what you're expected to do regarding work and stuff. It's just like it's almost seems to go against the grain of society to actually sit and do nothing.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, we've got guilt and pressure around not also doing all the things that we should be doing, and we feel bad for it. So it's a huge mental game that we're constantly playing up against. And also for you, it's like, well, should I be training? Should I not be training? How much should I be training? I'm not training now, but maybe I should be training. And then should I eat or should I not eat? Because am I having too much, or am I doing too much of the carbs, or am I doing too much of the proteins? And it's just like
Absolutely.
Oh, so I wanted to, on that segue, I wanted to step into nutrition with you. So, how have you liked to best support your body over these years of training? Is there anything that you really love to eat, to have, that you find works really well for you? A certain method of nutrition, and diet, but any of those things?
Yeah, I feel like there definitely is a little recipe right now to what makes me feel really good, but I'll go back a few years. I've been pretty experimental, I feel, with my own nutrition, and I'm always happy to kind of try things for extended periods of time to see how I kind of perform on different diets and stuff like that. The first big shift that I did was I went vegetarian, almost vegan actually, besides still eating eggs. I was veggie for like 4 years.
Mm,
And when I first went vegetarian, I really loved it. I felt very light and my digestion actually improved quite a bit. And that was kind of enough to make me stick with it. And throughout those years of being vegetarian, I actually started losing quite a lot of weight. I got down to, at my lightest, I was just under 55 kilos, which is like incredibly light for me, basically skin and bone. And
Mm.
I had a big hip operation at the end of that 4 year vegetarian stint. And when I was recovering from my hip operation, the bones in my hip weren't actually fusing back together, which led the surgeon to want to do some blood analysis work on me to see like what's going wrong. Why aren't your bones kind of healing how they should? And it
Mhm.
just turns out I was really deficient in a lot of things. And so he basically recommended strongly that instead of just supplementing all the things I need, that I should just start eating a bit of red meat again.
Mhm.
And so I was like, yeah, okay, I'm not like religious to being vegetarian, so I'll just start eating meat again, see how that goes. And yeah, it was like night and day. As soon as I started eating steaks like a couple times a week, it was just like huge hits of energy every time I had a steak, feeling like super energized. And I just thought to myself, all right, well, this is obviously way better than being vegetarian for me personally. So started eating meat again. All the energy came back. I gained like in the next 2 years or so, I gained 20 kilos. So I got
Oh,
from 55 to 75 and gained heaps of strength, made huge progress in my calisthenics training and stuff. Generally just felt better and more energized. So since reintroducing meat into my diet, the other big change that I feel like I've made is skipping breakfast. I used to be a big advocate for eating like a pretty solid breakfast basically as soon as I got up in the morning, but now I don't really eat until like between 12 and 2 most days. It's not exactly intermittent fasting because I'll still have like a coffee with milk in the morning and stuff, but I just really like the feeling of being on an empty stomach, especially with training and like surfing and stuff like that. I don't like having heaps of food in my belly. And so if I can put that feeling off as long as possible and get my training done before I eat, yeah, I feel super good. And then my dinner is basically like the huge meal of the day. I'll just feast myself during dinner, and eating that much before bed kind of means the next day when I kind of fast up until lunchtime, I don't actually want food because one, my body's used to not eating breakfast now, but two, I've just eaten a massive dinner the night before, so I don't really need it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I find that sort of way, you eat actually very similar to how I eat, and very similar history as well, where I was vegan and vegetarian, vegan actually, didn't have any animal products for over 6 years as well, and was pregnant for one pregnancy was within that time period as well. But the same for me is that I felt like I'm an O blood type as well. And I felt like meat was something that I was craving a lot of. And when I brought that back in, I noticed a day and night difference too. Not the training that is compared to you at all, but definitely the changes according to what you need is for your body. And then, intermittent fasting, it's great. But again, it was like, different life stages. You might find that something might work different for you in a few years' time. So it's also being flexible in that way and meeting body demands in that way, where your body is actually changing and adapting. And you need sometimes more for the recovery or for the bone healing. And so it's really interesting how it's good to hear from an athlete's perspective in that diets can change, because there's so much stigma around diets these days, and people are like, well, you've got to be vegan, you've got to be vegan forever, or you've got to be carnivore forever, or you've got to eat this way forever, and this is the only way that you should be eating because it's the best way. It's like, well, no, no, no. It's like how is our life shifting and changing, and the demands that are being met. For an injury that you've got at the moment, you might need some more protein, amino acids, so we're actually getting more nutrition coming through there. So the healing potential is bigger. We're doing correction on some of the deficiencies that you've got at the moment as well. So, you're going to have more capacity to be able to heal at a faster rate and therefore get back to what you love faster. So there's so many ins and outs of nutrition that I love, and that's the personalization of what we can do, especially with you being an athlete and where you want to get to. You can come back even better than before because you've got the recovery and the rest.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. And you're so right. I feel like the whole diet industry is super super culty at the moment. It's like you have to subscribe to like one religion almost. And there's people, I have friends that are carnivores, I have friends that are vegans, and it's just insane how attached they are to that as part of their identity. And
Yeah.
I mean, I was like that for a little bit when I was vegetarian. It kind of became a part of me, but seeing it in people I know, it's just like, man, you have no flexibility around your nutrition now because you're preaching so hard about being a carnivore or a vegan. It's like, aren't you curious to try other things and see how it works? I'm always in this state of constant experimentation with myself to like try and optimize everything about my life. And I feel like if I was too oversubscribed to one way of living or one way of eating, that it kind of shuts out any opportunity for change.
Yeah. And we are constantly in a state of evolution, right? So if we aren't evolving, then we're dead. So
Yeah.
well, and we probably still evolve, but at a soul level, but just not at a body level then. But so I think we all have to be open to be shifting and changing, and in evolution and in experimentation that happens. We have to naturally be able to be shifting our views, because views can change quite dramatically according to life circumstances or even belief systems that shift. But yeah, I agree. I didn't like that cultishness, but I think maybe some part of us have to go through that to feel that restriction and that guilt and the judgment from the whole group when you like sort of like suggest new things, and then to step out of that and know that you don't belong in that box anymore. And I've got freedom now to be who I want to be at the times that I want to be, the time that I want to be who I am is just so freeing. So yeah, it's an interesting concept, and a lot of this comes into what we see in clinic too. A lot of people are so rigid in where their belief systems are because of certain things, and trying to break that can be quite tricky. But once you do, you get huge successes in multiple areas. So
Mm,
yeah, it's fascinating. But for you, I think it's really that meeting demand. Saying when you'd broken or you had your hip injury. It's interesting to sometimes at those stages where you go, right, now what is my body, well, where's the realignment needed, where's the optimization needed, what are the things that I might have been letting slip for a little while, and we've discovered that now and through this process for you, and it's only like little tweaks that you need to make, but they'll make the world of difference because your body now has all the foundational parts that it needs just to build those really beautiful bricks. So yeah,
yeah,
it's nice to watch.
for sure. Yeah.
Amazing. So, Louis, now what I know you're probably sitting in in your house at the moment, dreaming of all these things that you could be doing because you're stuck inside for a little bit. If you wanted to divulge some more information about your injury, you can do. But what's sort of like the longer term plans for Louis? What are we looking at in the next few months, the next year? What have we got in our hopes and dreams and aspirations at the moment?
Yeah, so I guess it's a good idea to give everyone an idea of where I'm at currently.
Yes.
I've just recently sustained a pretty severe ankle injury by when I was bodyboarding, I slammed my foot into the reef after getting wiped out by a wave and basically tore all of the ligaments in my ankle, which required surgery. And so, yeah, currently pent up in my home, just relaxing my ankle. I'm in a cast. It's actually not too bad, to be honest. It's obviously very different to my usual life because I'm not working, I'm not doing anything, but I'm not beating myself up too much about it all. Just taking a good opportunity to rest my entire body, which is actually quite nice. Um, but in the same vein, it's come along at a very bad time for me because I've just actually recently picked up a new bodyboard sponsor. For my
Mm.
entire bodyboarding career, I've been with the same bodyboard company and I've just switched over to a different bodyboard brand, which I'm super excited about. And it's kind of created this whole new wave of motivation for me to start pushing it again in bodyboarding and creating content to start to promote, my new bodyboard sponsor. And now it's kind of come to a grinding halt because I can't actually bodyboard. And so the main focus now for the foreseeable future is just to get my ankle better as soon as I can without obviously rushing it. And once my ankle's better, just really kick into gear with my bodyboarding to get some content for my new sponsor and yeah, just start chasing waves again and trying to promote my new boards and get back to normal life. But yeah, I suppose that's it in a nutshell. But just feeling really motivated with bodyboarding at the moment. I feel like over the years, the motivation levels kind of ebb and flow quite naturally with where I'm focusing my energy towards. Some parts of my life, I'm not really caring that much about bodyboarding and like to focus more on training and working. And then motivation for bodyboarding will come back and I'll really chase waves for a bit and then I'll get a bit burnt out on it again. But right now, with where I'm at in my life, I'm like super, super motivated with bodyboarding. So I can't wait to get back into it.
Well, it sounds wonderful, and I think, like you say, it came at a bad time, but also maybe at the best time because then you're going to be traveling more and then having more intense activity, and you want your body to be at a really good space. So, and you're still able to maintain strength and still train a little bit there. So it's not like you're losing your fitness in that way. So, it speaks for another story, isn't it? Like, you have another war wound to add to the mix to then speak about another story to tell, right?
Yeah. I think I've got enough war wounds by now, though. I wouldn't mind no more war wounds.
Oh, it comes natural with the waves that you try and chase. So, my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's part of it, but damn, I've sustained quite a few now in my short years of being here.
Yeah, goodness me. So, as I said, into the hyperbaric, so those bones can heal real fast and get all the ligaments back in order where they should be. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
It's nice to actually see you in there and seeing in the intensity and the shortness of the injury when you first came back from the competition that you were at. But it was for the swelling, and the bruising, and just to see it quite quickly decrease. Obviously, you're really healthy and your body is doing all the things it needs to do, but it just speaks for like sort of like stacking approach, that protocol based approach. If you can get as many inputs as you can, the time to recovery is just so fast. So yeah, it'd be really,
Yeah.
can't wait to see you back in here, and it'll be good to see the next part of the journey of the injury.
For sure. I was actually really amazed with how quickly the swelling of my ankle went down after my injury. Like after my injury, but before my surgery, there was that 3 weeks or so where I was doing a lot of hyperbaric, a lot of red light therapy. And then at home, I've got my sauna and my ice bath. So every day I was just smashing out lots of different recovery modalities. And it actually kind of tricked me into thinking my ankle injury wasn't bad because when I first did it, when I wiped out on that wave and felt my ankle basically snap, I thought to myself, like, oh, this is bad. But then the weeks following, because I was doing so much of that recovery stuff, I thought to myself, oh, this is actually, this is getting better. It might not be that bad. And then I saw the orthopedic specialist and he's like, mate, you need surgery. Like you've blown up your ankle. So it's like all that recovery stuff, it obviously worked. It's just that the injuries I sustained were just a bit too serious to ever be able to heal on their own properly. So, but it's definitely woken me up to the power of recovery if you kind of, like you said, you stack all of these different modalities and protocols on top of each other. The effect that they can have is very substantial compared to just doing nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. The correct order, the correct timing, and then the correct foundational like brickwork, making sure those cofactors and nutrition and mindsets there, and boom, you've got a recipe for success. It's really, really cool. Really
Yeah.
cool. So Louis, now where can everyone find you? And tell everyone a bit about, obviously everyone knows probably where to find you already now anyway, but we always do this. Website boards, all the things that you're doing at the moment in terms of reaching you and access.
Yeah, sweet. I guess if you want to follow me on social media, the only thing I'm really currently using is Instagram, and my name on it is Lewy Finnegan. I'm not crazy active on it, but yeah, if you want to keep somewhat up to date with what I get up to, then definitely just follow me on Instagram. If you want a little taste of my yoga and Pilates and my movement teaching, I do have a website which you can subscribe to. It's just called louisfinnegan.com. And yeah, I am starting to take on my first few clients in one-on-one calisthenics training. You'll find my email on my website. So if that's something that you might be interested in delving into, then yeah, head to my website and have a dig around and you'll find all the info you need.
Oh, exciting. That will be
Yeah.
cool. I can't wait to see people come out of your training program.
Yeah, it's been super rewarding to be honest so far because the I've had my website for a long time, which is on-demand classes, and
Mhm.
I do get really, really nice messages of people that have sustained like a bad injury or they've just had like a really sore lower back for like 4 years and they thought that it was just part of life. And then they sign up for my site, and after a few months, their back pain's gone and they message me like, thank you so much. It's fixed me. And like, that's honestly just like makes my whole life feel like it's worthwhile. And kind of getting similar vibes now with my first few calisthenics clients. They were curious about the world of bodyweight strength training, but didn't know how to get started. And after doing like my month program with them, they've just caught the bug, you know? I kind of like teach them all the basics that they need to know so that they can structure their own training. And then at the end of the month, I just see some of them are so motivated. It's like it brings me back to when I first got into it, and they're just like, let's go, let's do this. And they just have such a fire within themselves to keep doing it on their own.
Yeah. And it's just
Yeah.
the power of catching the bug, but also you can do this work, which I really love about calisthenics, is that you can do it anywhere. You can find a park, you can find a beach, you can find a bench, you can just find a grassy area. You know, it's anywhere, anytime. And I love that. You can be outside, you can be in nature, you can be hanging off a tree, anything. So good.
100%. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
such a good way to train. Minimal equipment and like you said, do it anywhere. Handstands especially, like all you need is like a few square meters of floor and you can train handstands for hours and it's just so fun getting better at it and progressing.
so fun. I've been doing lots of sort of like backward work on the wall, kissing the wall, and I'm starting to get a little bit of movement through the hands here and one hand off, and yeah,
Nice.
slowly getting there, Louis.
Yeah.
Slowly.
I better watch my back. It seems like you're coming for me.
I have to do your month training just to catch more of the bug.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, Louis. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day, your injury pain level today for me. But yeah, it's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to see what's to come in the next year, but also to support you through all this next part of this injury and healing.
Oh no, the pleasure's all mine. And honestly, thanks so much to you and everyone else at Revital Health for the assistance. Um, it's yeah, really opened my eyes.
Yeah,
It
no
truly
pleasure,
has.
and we'll be here to teach you lots more.
100%. Let's go.
Cool. All right. Thanks, dude.
Sweet. I'll chat to you soon.
See ya.